what you been up to since I've been gone? It looks like you've been working on maps.
Yeah, that's the idea of the. I was just kind of recreating a map library for Google, some components really, um, by looking at what an existing library does, and then trying to just recreate that functionality. That was more so for me. I've got a project that I'm going to be doing some map stuff with, and I figured, I did that in the show to just so our where we left off with the to do app is untouched.
Okay, gotcha.
And I finally got around to this morning. I read that article about typing
Oh, nice.
form events and stuff, and I pulled. I was able to kind of grasp that. What is it? Type of state, key of type of state.
Oh, okay.
Because that's being used in there to type the each of the objects in that state object, and it types it dynamically. And I put it into find and asked it to explain it a little bit more, and now I understand what's actually happening there, because that line looks really cryptic. But when you
Oh,
actually
very
know
cool.
what's being returned and what's happening on each of those, so that's something we could go over if we want. But otherwise, I figured we'd just jump right back into the to-do app. Last time we were outlining our um, data structure when you started having connectivity issues, and
That's
then
right.
I threw together a select box that allowed us to select. I think there were maybe priority options.
Oh yeah, let me take a
If
look at
that's
this.
if that's
Okay.
what I did.
Options map. Oh no. Oh right. Turn this into a type. So we have the task name. Let me pull up my notes on that actually.
All right, so our huddle here is live, and we are connected to the LinkedIn. And then maybe in 2 minutes here, I'll go live on the LinkedIn just to be up a little early.
Yeah, that sounds good. Okay, cool. Okay, yeah, it looks like we have the everything that was in my notes at least. What is going on here? Yeah, let me pull this back up. So where are we actually with this? Oh, I see. Task name, task description.
Yeah, we were just putting together our data structure.
Our data structure so that we may create the form. Is that right?
Yeah.
Okay. Cool. Oh, right. We were going through handling the change. Okay. Right. And you live already?
Sorry, what was that?
Oh no, did you lose me? Did I lose you?
No, I can hear you. Hello? I can hear you.
You can hear me. Okay.
Hmm.
Uh, for me, your video is frozen.
Hmm. Mm.
Hmm. Okay. Um,
Hmm.
okay. You're moving again. You hear me?
Yep.
Cool. Cool.
Okay. Interesting. Okay, there's something going on.
Got to huddle with huddle. See what's going on. You're already live streaming. I was asking.
Yeah, the huddle is live. I
Ah,
haven't sent the LinkedIn live yet. I was going to do that a couple minutes ago, actually. So I'm going to do that now.
cool.
All right. So we are live on LinkedIn.
Good morning.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Upskill and Chill. And a special round of applause and welcome back for Courtney. Yay! We have co-host again.
It's good to be back.
It is tough to do this kind of thing on your own. Uh,
Yeah. How'd you feel about your performance, so to speak, while I was gone?
I felt like it was okay. I felt like the second day was better than the first. The first
Mm,
it was all fine, but um, having someone else to converse with just makes it so natural. It's like we ask each other questions, we comment on things, and then the conversation and the project just kind of roll, and it's really normal.
yeah.
And I mean, I eventually I just kind of like forget that we're even streaming because it's just the two of us hanging out and learning, right? Which is the whole point. Um, on my own, I'm keenly aware of the idea that like, oh, I need to be talking all the time, and I need to be looking at the camera because I'm streaming, and it's much less natural. And I have to generate all the conversation, um, and you and I think differently about things. We have different experience and backgrounds, so that really helps, I think, to for both of us to learn from each other and others to learn from us, because we both look at things differently. So then we mention different things, or like just the whole get switch get checkout thing is like we got different systems. So then that creates interest and opportunity for learning too. So um,
It makes sense. Hard to have a different system from yourself to learn
yes,
from.
exactly. Um, let's see here.
Okay. I think I got all my things set up on my end again.
Okay. Um,
In fact, I think the last time I was on here, I was having video issues or something like that.
I believe that's true.
The last words our adoring fans heard were me being cut off.
Sorry, I'm trying to clean up this branch that I had started. Um, there we go. Like I was telling Courtney earlier, um, we're returning back to our React form typing and whatnot to keep moving down the idea of this to-do app. Um, and I finally got around this morning to reading through the article that I had found multiple weeks ago about typing forms in React and form events specifically. And I like when I'm doing something like that. I like to at least have some hands in the code. I didn't type out every line of it. I copied over things, but then I was making comments and I was kind of playing around with it locally instead of just reading the article to help me learn better. So I had that on a separate branch. I was just cleaning that up. I pushed it. It's got example code and some comments on it that you might find helpful, Courtney, at some point. But otherwise, we can talk about that stuff today too.
Okay.
Um, let's see. Otherwise, yeah, we could just dive right back in and see what's up.
Okay, beautiful. Let's pull this up. Okay, so we were on our to-do page. We're working on, excuse me. We were working on defining the type that would be a task, essentially. So
Yeah.
all the data points of the task that we would need to keep, and defining not only the types, but then sort of defaults or whether they were optional, like all things task, basically. And do you want to take the reins here while I make
Uh,
sure all
mm,
my things work?
yeah.
Uh,
Sure.
Actually, so I pulled down some changes this morning. Did you just put pull more changes into the master branch just now?
It was not master. I left it on a side branch. It's a branch off of
Gotcha.
my branch,
Okay.
so it shouldn't interfere, and it's not necessary. You can check it out if you want to. But before we get everywhere, I just we jumped ahead. You were on tour in Europe. Would
Oh,
you care
yeah.
to briefly share a little bit about your experience and how that was?
Sure. So I had the great fortune of playing with a band. I've been in this band since it started. It's called Sugar Mill Slim, and it's sort of a blues, glam rock, and evolving into other things kind of project. But one of the nice things about being with the band this long is we've made a lot of contacts, and we were able to book a tour in Europe, and specifically in the Netherlands and in the UK. We played a couple festivals in the Netherlands at a place called Ospel, which is like a small it's like a farming town kind of, but they have a ranch where they do a big festival there, so that was fun. And then in I'll mess this up, but it's called Groningen, which is in the northeast of the Netherlands, which is sort of like a college town kind of, or university town, if you will. And they had a single day festival with all blues acts, rhythm and blues and blues. And then we got a chance to play a couple venue gigs in the UK. We played one in London at a happen place called Ain't Nothing But the Blues, and another in a seaside town called Folkestone, which is pretty close to Dover, which is maybe a place people have heard of.
Cliffs of Dover.
Um, the Cliffs of Dover, exactly. It was an incredible trip. Some highlights for me were spending time in London. While we were there, it didn't rain at all. It was like Los
Nice.
Angeles weather, so we got a chance to walk around. I like the rain, but it was cool to explore and not have to worry about that dimension.
Yeah.
It was I've lived in and grown up in LA my whole life, and I've always loved this city. But I have to say, being in London, I got the view of a different kind of city, one that felt more international and more connected to the rest of the world. And I think
Mm.
maybe part of that is that I didn't spend all my time in a car. But
Right.
but also it was very cool being in a place that's so close to other cultures, and you walk down the street and you're hearing French and Dutch and
Ah,
German and all manner of things. And also we did have a van that we used to get from city to city, and I drove in London, and oh my gosh, the driving on the left side of the road. Also, I thought LA was badly organized, but man, London is just it's just medieval roads. You're just twisting and turning.
yeah.
Nothing is there's no grid.
Yeah. Yeah.
But
I
other than
have,
that,
yeah, I have to
yeah,
imagine those old cities like that. They were retrofitted for roads when the car was invented, right? Because they've been around for so
yes.
much longer. Uh, so you don't have the ability, like with something like LA being so modern, to just like carve a path for an 8-lane highway.
Yeah, exactly. And so I'm very comfortable driving. Most Americans probably are, honestly. But I got there, and one thing that occurred to me is I probably should have read up on like local. I don't even know if they're laws, but just like how do people drive in a different
Ah,
place, and what are the customs? Because there are things we have in Los Angeles even that I've come to learn are not. that are unique to here or this maybe even California that aren't all across the U.S. like unprotected left turns and things like that.
Hmm.
So I'm in England. They don't even have a full turn lane when you're doing the let's see over there. It's a right turn. So
Yeah,
it was
man.
it was
I don't know
goofy.
if I don't know if I could drive like that. It'd be so weird being on the wrong side of the road. I guess you could probably pick it
My
up quickly, but it's hard to imagine.
Yeah, my band was lucky because I this is something that's been on my bucket list for some time. I wanted to have that experience, and
Oh, okay.
so I got it.
Nice, nice. Cool.
But other
Let's
than that, yeah, it's cool. People in Europe are very friendly, and they dug what we were doing to a surprising degree. I would say we're playing really well too, but frankly, I was surprised by the response. We'll
Awesome.
be back.
Shows went well?
Shows went very well, yeah, especially in the Netherlands. I think that is a place where we have fans now.
Nice.
And it was cool. My father is Dutch Indonesian. He's born in Indonesia and
Okay.
then emigrated to Holland and such. But he's the result of that mixture of cultures, and
Yeah.
so I have that in the background. I had a lot of Dutch things growing up, like food and just bits of the culture. So it was cool to actually to go there and
Yeah.
visit it and say, hey, I know what that is, and I know what this is, and such. Next time I go back, though, I have to actually really have learned Dutch, I think.
There you go.
I was not taught that growing up, so,
Very cool. What was the best thing you ate or drank?
The best thing I ate or drank, in London, I can't remember the name of the restaurant, but, I went to an Indian food restaurant, and, it was, a pumpkin masala.
Hmm.
Um, so,
Okay.
play on chana masala, I suppose, but very spicy, very flavorful. And then just the restaurant itself was the best vibe. I mean, the owner came out and talked to us and wanted to hear about why we were there, and it was a wonderful, wonderful day. I would go back for sure.
Very cool.
Yeah,
Very cool. Sounds like such a cool, fun time. Awesome.
yeah, it
Well,
was exciting. It's hard to come back, but now that I am back, should we dive into some code?
yeah, yeah. Let's do this. I have been itching to get back on some of this stuff. So, um, cool. Do you wanna start us off, or should I start us off with the screen share?
If you don't mind, why don't you start us off, and then I'll pop on later.
Okay. Let me do this. Okay. Right. So we gotta. Last we left, I had put together a priority component here. Select item, a select component or select element with some priorities in it. Because I knew that was something that I could do while you were having some connectivity issues last time, and we were building out this type. So let's go over this real quick and see. So we've got task name as a string, description as a string, priority level will be the number, creation date is going to be a date timestamp, probably a string, due date deadline. That one might even be something we don't use right away, just because that'll be some
Sure.
extra complexity. Um, not like crazy complexity, but just like getting started with something that we can add other things in, and then completed.
Especially since
Right?
it's optional, we can leave it till we have the space mentally and so forth to
Yeah, yeah. I think
complete
the
that.
other ones are all pretty crucial to having just like a to do item. But yeah, the due date deadline can be something that we set up a little bit later. Okay. Um, I mean, I think that looks good to me. That's the type, right? So if we want to take this and I think I had mentioned the idea of doing our types in a separate file, right?
Okay. Yeah.
I really like that, uh, especially since this is something I imagine is going to get used around the app because the to do items are going to be going around. Although we haven't componentized anything yet, so we could also just leave it here for now and move it out later. I mean, what's your thought?
If you want, we can take this moment to set up a global typing file that will automatically export our types to different
Yeah,
places.
we might as well. I think
I,
so.
I know how
Let
to
me
do that.
give.
If you want, I could take control for that, or I could just walk you through it. Either way is fine with me.
Yeah, here I'm in here right now. Unless you're
Sure.
really itching to do it, because I mean we're just gonna go,
I don't know.
like a types directory. Oops, that's not a directory. That is a file. Sorry, types, and then does it need to be a directory, or it could just be a file? I think it should be a directory because we could put other things in it too.
I would set up a directory. Yeah.
Yeah, and then what do we want to call the file? Just types for now. Types.
Yeah. You call types.ts. I think. Yeah.
Okay.
We'll see.
Naming
Actually, so
stuff, man.
I've set it up a specific way based off of a tutorial I saw ages ago. But I assume the way that I titled it is not somehow affecting the way that the file's read, but rather it's just a convention of the person that I
Oh
learned
yeah.
from.
Well,
So we'll
how
find
is
out.
that? Was it like that .d thing or something in there?
Yeah, it's titled global.d.ts,
Hmm.
and I'll admit I haven't looked into it.
You know, my only experience with the .d thing, I don't really know what that means. Is from the little bit of time I spent in Nest.js,
Okay.
and that one has a convention too for setting up different files. And there's I think it was .d was something else that ended up in there a lot. But anyway, so we can let's see export, and it will just be I don't know what to do.
Let's
Type.
see. Oh, so there's a little configuration. I mean, it's not much, but
Okay, well, okay. So if you have a like super special thing that
it's
you've got ready, then I should pass control over to you. I thought we were just gonna just put a type in, but if you have
it's
process,
just 2 lines. It's just 2 lines, and they're simple.
okay.
You could at the top put export and then just an empty object after it, and then next line it'll be declare global with an object.
Uh, like this.
hmm Yeah, and then inside that object is where we will put all our types and interfaces and such. And you can just put them line by line. There's no need to comma separate or anything like that. And this should automatically export all of our types throughout the entire document. So we don't even have to import
Oh,
them in each
really?
file. Yeah, they'll just be
Oh,
available to us.
okay. Interesting. Declare global, and then so that goes into the global namespace then in our project.
Yeah, and I did just take a little look, a little cursory Google search, and it might be that this naming convention for the file actually does affect, makes it into a global library potentially.
Interesting.
Um, I would need more time to read through this, but I
So I
think
can just so then I could just do to do, or do I still have to declare type? Type
you
to
still have to
do
declare type
equals
or interface.
like that.
Hmm
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. Okay. Let me grab this comment again, and I'll leave this here just in case it becomes useful. But otherwise, I'm gonna put this here. Let's see if I'm trying to think about the most efficient way to kind of copy this over. Maybe it would be
Let's write an AI image uh, image reader that will automatically convert it
yeah.
into the type we want.
I'm actually I'm thinking about how in NeoVim you can do this thing. You can record a macro live, so you can hit a button, do a sequence of keystrokes, and then end your record, and then you can just repeat that macro a bunch of times.
Ooh, that's nice.
So, but I don't know. So, so I think let's see. So it's just going to be our types are name,
Hmm
right, and then of type string, and then
That's
comma,
right.
right? Or
No,
it's
well,
interfaces that use semicolons, right?
they use semicolon. Both use. Actually, I don't know. That's a great question. Let me take a
I
look
think
here.
it's types have a comma, interfaces use a semicolon, if I'm not mistaken.
And you actually don't have to put either for types or interfaces. You could leave that off, but I wouldn't blame you for having them.
So something like this, I think. Uh, so, uh, oh no, this is. So we just want to call this priority instead of priority level. I think
Yeah, that's fine.
the
I think
level
that makes
is
more sense.
a little redundant, or not redundant. That's the wrong. Do we want to say if this? if we're gonna have a due date eventually, do we want to say creation and due, or creation deadline, or do we want due date?
I guess
We could do creation date. That's not the end of the world.
creation date makes sense, and maybe later on deadline makes sense too. I like that better than due date, but creation date makes sense.
Yeah. Okay. So
You
we'll
could
say.
also call it created at. I've seen that convention out there a lot.
Oh yeah, actually, let's do that. That makes sense
Okay.
because I've seen that too. Created at. I'm gonna comment that one for the moment,
Beautiful.
and then nope. What am I doing? Get rid of all of that. Replace with a lowercase c. There, I think. There, a little bit of typing, but
Okay, let's see if
that's our to
it's
do.
available.
So then we come over here. Handles. How do we want to check if it's available? Because we don't really have a place for it to go just yet. I think
That's
we're
true.
going to use that as like an outline for now building our form, right?
Yeah,
But I
that's
guess
right.
the form is we're going to take in a task. Oh, here. Go 20 lines up, and like task is going to be a to do. We don't type it here though, do we?
I think you so after use state.
Yeah,
Yeah, exactly.
it's right there. And
Okay,
then
let's see.
this there. Yeah, I think that's good. It's not giving me. It's not saying that's undefined, so it means
That's
it's
right.
fine,
That's right.
right?
Hey,
Okay, and then something else. Okay, I'll try and slow down here a second. So we'll add that to Git. Commit. Add global types. I'll just say. Okay, and then that should be in my Git now. Yep. Oh, did I just add the whole? I think I did. Oops. Git restore staged. Git restore staged and then all. Okay, because I didn't want to add the whole file here. I just wanted to add that one line. Oh, if that's the only change that I made, then it is the whole thing. Okay, my bad. Git commit. Add type. Okay. Cool.
huh.
So then here, I guess we would need so like we find no. I think we need to put in a default here, right?
Yeah, that would make sense. Like an empty default.
Yeah. Okay.
Interesting. While you're doing that, I was just looking up what's actually happening on our tot file when we export an empty object. I was curious about that bit of syntax. What's actually happening there?
Yeah.
And so what I'm seeing is that an empty export statement is sometimes useful in TypeScript code to turn a file that would otherwise be a script file into a module file, which sounds cool. But now my question is, what does that mean? So, difference between
So
script files and
it
modules.
turns a script file into a module file.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so that makes me think of like in Node, everything is module.exports,
Yes.
right? So then it's So that's a module file, and it has exports, right? So then you're expecting the framework is expecting an export from it, and probably handles that somewhere on the back end or in the ether, in the magic of the framework. But if there's no export, that's probably how it's going out through the global. Is that you're making this a module? It's searching through it. That .d might have something to do with that,
Hmm.
and then it's pulling the exports out of this file because it has exports, right?
Okay.
um, versus because usually to get something out of a file you have to export every item, right? Either a default or each function or each type that you have in there. You have to export each one to put it into the module.exports. But if you're going to declare global here, I don't know what this declare global does, but that's my guess. I'm just spitballing. It
I
probably I'd
I
be
looked
interested
it
to
up.
learn more about this declare global.
Um, okay, but real quick, I looked up the difference between a script and a module file
Yeah.
in JavaScript, and so it's telling me that scripts are for synchronous loading and evaluation, whereas modules are for asynchronous loading and evaluation.
Okay. Yep.
Again, I'm not specifically sure what that really means in like a more practical sense, but at least that's a some kind of definitive difference between the two. I'm interested as well, though, in this declare
I'm
global.
asking find right here. It says in JavaScript, particularly when using TypeScript, declare global is used within declaration files. Oh, that's the .d.ts
That's
is
the
the
D.
declaration file
Uh-huh.
to extend the global scope of your application. This
Oh,
is useful when
okay.
you want to add new types or interfaces that should be globally available throughout your project, but without actually modifying the global object itself. The global
Oh,
object in JavaScript is typically window in browsers and global in Node.js environments. But by using declare global, you can augment these objects with additional properties, methods, or even entire modules that you've defined elsewhere in your code base. Here's a basic example to illustrate how this works.
so we've modified the global scope to include this module, which includes all the types that we put within.
Interesting. Okay, so a declaration file. So that way that makes sense why it's declare global because we're in a declaration file. And the declaration file is going to modify it's going to add stuff to our global scope without actually modifying the global object itself.
Hmm.
I could probably dig into that further to really figure out what that all means, but that's very interesting.
So now we know not only a bit of the meaning behind the specific syntax we just used, but also that there is some meaning, I think, to the file naming convention.
Yep. That .d is significant for sure.
Okay,
Very cool.
that's
Very
wonderful,
cool.
man.
Fun
Look at
stuff.
us learning.
Yeah, that's what it's all about. Um, so, are you okay with defaulting this priority to 0 as our as a placeholder? Um,
Yeah, let's talk about. Did we talked about zero would be like the least or I guess no priority, and
I outlined the
one, two, three.
priorities here. We have low, medium, high,
Oh,
one, two,
that's
three.
right. Okay,
So
right.
if it's 0, I mean that gives us, we can always check for 0 if we need to know if it has a priority at all or not yet. That'd be a way of validating.
Hmm,
Um,
hmm.
Otherwise, we'd have to go with null, and then we'd have to make a unison type between either number or null, and then you have to do type checks all over the place. I think it's better to maybe just make it 0.
Okay, let's roll with that.
That's my thought on that.
Yeah, the only other thing I was thinking is maybe just setting it to one or something like that. But even then, I don't know.
Hmm.
Did we?
Default everything to null.
Yeah. Let me. Did we have a default value we wanted to assign? Uh,
You know what? Defaulting to 1 might actually be the way to go because we're gonna have these things styled in the form itself. We're gonna probably default the selection in that select item to 1, right? It's
yeah.
just
So here's the only other thing to argue against what I just said. Originally in our type, if you look below, we'd had priority levels optional, um, which would then be a case to have a zero default, like you were suggesting. Because then if it's zero, that means there's no priority associated.
Yeah.
But then that begs the question: do we need it to be optional? I don't know.
Yeah, that's where I was thinking. Is like if it's
Mhm.
not, I mean, either like it's mandatory, and then everything just defaults to one, and then if you want to do priorities, you can. If you want to change the priority to like 2 or 3, you can, but the priority level will just be always selected. Always, it wouldn't be optional anymore, which
Mm-hmm.
would be fine because we're going to be styling these differently based on um, priority level, right?
I think so. That would make
Yeah,
sense. So yeah, let's instead of optional, let's make that
yeah,
a default of one.
yeah. We'll replace that with one, and then and then yeah, optional. Speaking of optional, we actually need to make things optional in our type.
That's right.
Priority will not be optional. Created at will not be optional. That'll be mandatory. Deadline eventually will probably be optional. Completed has to happen. So the only optional one we actually have is description.
That's right.
Needs to
That's right.
have a name. Well, default priority to one. Created at will be automatic, and then completed will be required as well, and that'll also
Default to false, I guess.
default to false. Yeah. So
Yeah. Okay.
um, um, make priority default to one. Okay, cool. Figuring stuff out. Good, good, good. So we've got that in there. We have a default object here in our state. So then I guess the next step would be to start building out the form, right?
Yeah, that makes sense.
Okay. So we're going to, let's see, we got name here, ID of name, label of name. So that's all fine. Then we've got description, label of description. I'm going to grab these 2 lines here. Um, description on change handler. Oh, we need to add that to
To
uh,
the task name.
yep. Let's see. Let's go over to the oops. Wow, major. Geez. Okay, my brain just shut down for a second. I was like, wait, what's that command? I don't even remember. Okay, so now we can. Um, so we've got task name, description. Let's see, priority. So actually, hold on. Priority is the select. Creation date. Due date is optional. Completed. Oh, so this is actually our form. That's it.
Yeah, because completed will be default. What's we missing?
We have the
Oh,
task
creation
name.
date is automatic.
Yep, that'll be behind the scenes. Completed will be
Priority
behind the
level. Yeah, okay.
scenes. You don't set that in the form. So yeah, it's just name, optional description, and then
I guess the only thing
I've got
I'd
2 labels here.
yeah,
Uh,
I was gonna say that, and then we probably don't need to put task before name and description on
uh,
the labels for their respective.
yeah, we don't necessarily need to do that. Let me see what that looks like over here. Name, and then we can just do. Oh, still getting used to my window manager. Uh, there, description, and
Beautiful.
then
Okay.
I think let's see now now this is currently defaulting to high on the priority in the select item. Um, how do we? Oh man, okay, I'm gonna have to MDN. Um,
How do we default?
yeah, how you put the default on one of those on the option tag
I think it'll default to whatever is first
size.
in the list. You can also separately set a
Um,
default tag on an option, like I
yeah, you
think
just throw
the top is
it's just default.
yeah. So maybe what we do in the priority options array that you've created is Maybe we just set
A Boolean?
default. Yeah, yeah, we could do that.
Oh, so it's
Uh,
selected. Selected is the flag that you add
oh,
to
it's
the
selected.
option. Yeah, selected. Okay. So we'll do selected true.
You might even be able to just write selected in and then not even put it in the other ones because they'll evaluate to falsy. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, yeah. I was just gonna. What do you mean? Just put selected? So like, I was only gonna put it on
Uh,
the one, like you're suggesting. But
I
are you
could be
saying a
wrong, but I
string?
think you don't even necessarily need to add the colon and true after.
Just
Let's see, no value exists in scope. Oh, that's right. No, no, never mind. No, you should do what you were doing. I was thinking about, there's the bit of syntax where, like, if you're creating an object,
yeah.
if you name something, like,
If the key is the same as the value.
yeah, exactly, exactly. It'll
So then down
automatically make key and value.
here, option. So selected is going to equal item dot selected. Yeah,
Yeah, I think so.
and because it'll be falsy. It just won't exist on the other ones. Or is it
Right.
better to be overt or not? Overt's not the right word. I mean, it worked. Now the priority is set to low.
Okay, beautiful. And we actually can't see your to-do
Yeah,
list screen.
I mean, it doesn't look great. Let me see if I can. Here, I'll put this over in my third manager over here, so that we can see it. So that's that. That's what it looks like. It's prioritizing to low. Um,
Excellent.
cool. So let me grab all of that and continue to try my best to do atomic change commits. Um, okay, so that was edit inputs and add default priority option. That's not a great message, but I'm not going to get too bent out of shape about it.
I think we
Um,
get the picture though.
yeah, okay. So we've got our form. Uh, we've got the inputs typed to our state. And so then now here, okay, so something that we had seen last time or in that article was this idea that he wasn't doing, and I've seen it somewhere else now too. It must be a new syntax, some sort of update to React, but
Hmm.
you don't do this like prev anymore.
Okay. Yeah, I
Um,
saw that too.
it was just, I think what it is like because this task variable is available inside of this scope. I think the just spread task.
Okay.
I think that's the idea, is that you're just taking the state that already exists outside of here and spreading it here and then updating it. And then that begs the question of how we're going to update everything in here, and that's the article was handling some of that, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, it had
Well,
some
this makes
answers.
sense, right? Because change is just handling the change anytime we change a value before we've submitted, right? Because
Correct. Yes, that's the on change handler.
right. So task.
So then
Do we need?
every time one of those inputs changes, we have to check, and let's see, it was something like e dot current target dot value. There's something to do with this, but then this is where that extra bit of typing and some stuff came in. I don't remember it, but I was looking at it this morning. Let me.
We might have an extra uh, parentheses closing tag.
Yeah, I'm sure there's something here.
There we go.
Um,
Well, if we use the code that you have right here outside of e.current_target.value, does this work? Like Like if we console log, are you still doing it? Let me see. Do I have the console log? Oh, I don't have this code actually.
Um, yeah,
Like
just
if we
how. Yeah, go ahead.
I just want to check that this is actually working thus far. So like if we put that console log somewhere inside, like above the return, for instance, the return that is returning all of our HTML,
Hmm.
and we make changes, will it note those changes or?
Not going to, because in the handle change here, we're just taking the state as it exists and then resetting the
Hmm,
state as an object of that same state. We're not updating
I see.
anything.
Right.
That's
Right.
where
Right.
that's where that article comes back into play. Let me grab that
Let me
real
pull that up.
quick.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because it was pretty cool. And then that's where that whole like key of type of yada yada comes into play. So let me look down here at the final thing. So we did change event HTML input. Oh, no, that stays the same. Input element, and then they have an extra thing here because of the check, because they're using a checkbox, which we're not using.
Oh, I see now. I see how this works.
And it's value. So I think we should be able to value, and then we do this type of, and this would be task, not state, like in their example, because their state is actually named state. Key
That's right.
of type of task equals event target value, and then this is just, oops, then we have event dot target ID value. Like this is really cool code, but like maybe not the easiest thing to just read off the cuff.
For
And
us, it should
my
be E instead of event.
Yep, yep, I
Yeah.
just caught that as well.
Okay. Yeah, yeah. Although it might be helpful for us to parse through what's actually happening here,
Yes,
especially that line. What is that? Line
that one.
33. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. So, and we'll see if this works in a moment. But yeah, I asked find the AI tool exactly what this line meant, and basically the type of task here is returning. So uh, if the type of task is an object, which it is,
It's a task object essentially,
yeah, and
right?
actually, yeah, this is our well, this is our to do. Oh, we've got a name problem. So we named this to do. This over here, it's task. Do we want to switch that?
Let's call it task. I think
Okay,
to do might be like the whole list.
this is going to be called task, and then we need to task there. Okay,
There we go.
so then um, type of, and then this is the object. So the type of this is going to be a task. It's a task object, right? Which
Right.
is our object that has, name, um,
Description,
description,
priority, so on.
etc. Right? Each of those in there, and each of those, so it, yeah, the type of task is this object of this shape, and then the whole key of type of task cycles through the keys from inside the type that we just defined here. But this is all dynamic. We could throw any type, any object into this type of task, and it's going to pull out all the keys, and then uh, it types our value based on um, oh, man, it getting
So it's
The
based off
type
of the actual type of the value. Is that
the
right?
type of the value. Yeah, yeah, yeah. You're
Yeah.
inferring the type of each of those keys from the value of the key. So I mean, you can think of this as like the syntax of when you have, let's say you have const object equals an object, and you have first name Spencer in here. And then on the next line, you can go object, and you could go dot first name, but you can also go string inside of square brackets first name, and
Mhm.
that will equal out. That's two different ways of accessing the same thing, right?
Then you could also do it without the quotes. Is that right? Like
No,
first name just by itself.
when you do the square bracket, as far as I know, when you do the square brackets, then you have to index it with a string.
Oh, that's right.
And
Because
this
if you
allows
put
you
just
to,
first name, it would reference a variable named first
right,
name
yeah.
and
So
input
if
that
you're,
value. Okay.
yeah,
Yeah.
generally we avoid spaces and stuff, but sometimes there are either special characters or spaces or other things that end up in a name like this. And if there's a space in this name, you can name it this way, but now this is a, oops, um, now this is a string as the key,
Right.
right? And you can have a
Okay.
space, but now you can't access that key in dot notation, right? Because you can't do object
Dot.
dot
Yeah.
first space name, right? That's not an option. So
Hmm.
in that case, then you would use this syntax. And so what's happening up here then? I mean, if you look at this, that looks very similar now. So you've got, this is the object. This is
Hmm.
OBG from below, and then
The
you've got
type
the
object.
then yep, then you've got the square bracket notation here, and then you're putting in the name, the key of each of the keys of the object, right? Into the square bracket notation, and then so you are accessing the type, so you're indexing the type object with the keys of the type object to get the value of each of those keys, and then that becomes the type of the value. Like it's really cool, but yeah, it took me a second.
It's good though. It avoids or we avoid having to write every single thing out custom style this way.
Yes,
And then
it's very dynamic. I like it.
so in that next line, then we have set task. We're going to set the new task based on this change. Obviously, we're spreading the original task out, and then in brackets e dot target dot id.
Yes.
So I'm assuming,
And this is a way of dynamically, again, the square bracket, you can dynamically create the key of an object this way.
right. So if
So
if I'm not mistaken, this is referring to the target of our event, which is whatever input we're inputting into, and then it's addressing the ID value. So in this case,
on the
name.
HTML elements, yes. So these IDs need to match our type. So name, description, priority, name,
Mm-hmm.
description, priority. That's important that those match, because it's going to pull uh, the ID out of each of these when they do the handle change. It's such a cool system. It's so neat. Um, but yeah, not necessarily intuitive.
No, it's dense, but it's good. It's good.
Yeah, it's good.
These
It's
are useful
effective.
tools to know of.
Yes, absolutely. I probably need to write this a few more times to like really get the idea. But okay,
Well,
so
so does it work? Let's
yeah,
test
I
our
want
fancy syntax.
to let's see. I want to change to do to task. Uh, change type to do to task there, and then I don't know. What do we want to? Update change handler. Cool. Yes, we should absolutely test this out now. So okay, so we talked about this a little while ago. Where are we going to put the console log, right? This is a component. Um,
It should be
so
just outside the scope of the handle
of
change
handle change,
function.
yeah. So we should be able to just do this. Oops, and then we can just change this to our task, right?
I think so.
Because
We'll find out.
the state will update, and then it'll re-render the component, and then we'll get the current state there. Cool. So then if I switch back over to here, and man, that white background needs to go. That is just boom. Okay, so what do we have here? Handle change object is all our default. Sounds good.
Okay.
So let's what password? Is that of type? Is that type password?
Let's go see.
Did I? I don't think I have a type on it. Do we have to do just type
Uh,
text?
let's try that and see if that changes anything.
I think.
I think usually the default is type text.
Yeah, that's odd. That's like my password manager is trying to come up there. I don't know. Okay, so I put something in there. I mean,
Looking good.
name is updated to A. Clean room. There's our
Okay.
name. Pick up all the junk that I left out yesterday. And there it is. And then we're gonna switch our priority. This is really important.
It's
Hi.
high priority.
Oh, we didn't get a change there.
Okay.
Okay. Good. 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 We're finding stuff. So I don't know if these type texts are necessary actually.
Probably not.
I'm gonna refresh this real quick. And yeah, go. What is this? Default value or value props on select instead of setting selected. Use the default
Oh,
value
for
or
default
value.
value.
Okay, instead of setting selected.
Oh, right, because we're in React, so probably React wants us to use
So maybe is
it's
it?
kind of like HTML4 instead of 4.
Yeah. So instead of selected, we do default value, and then that's going to be true. Boolean or undefined is not assignable to type string number. Okay, so that's default value. That's not what we want. Value. So we'd have to set the value. Okay, so item dot value. So then we don't
Okay.
need the selected bit. Let's see what that if that clear that, refresh one more time. So this is now it's set to high by
Right, because
default
that's the first
because
that's
it's
the
the
first
first.
member of that
Yeah,
array.
it's the first one. That's not what we want.
So how's that working? It's
So
saying
it was
default value.
or value.
Well, no, it probably wouldn't be default val. Oh, no, no, no. Default value should probably be on the select element, I think, because we don't
Oh,
want to
that
set a default
okay.
value for an option, right?
Yeah. So alt value is going to equal
I guess you could just
1.
say 1. Yeah.
I guess it wouldn't be dynamic that way, but it doesn't need to be. Low. There we go.
Okay. Good.
We'll hard code that in there. Why not? So then we can ditch this as well. Um, uh, uh, yeah. Chain default value of priority. Okay. All the little things you run into. So now, does this high? Okay, so that is not that on change is not. Do we even have on change here on the selected? We don't.
We do not. Okay.
That would be y. Oops.
Weird. It didn't just know to do what we want.
Yeah, where's the AI? Come on. Okay, and then here we're
Uh,
gonna have
son of a
uh,
oh, because we're We're only using onChanged for HTML input elements right now, and this is a select element.
Okay.
So you you call that join or union HTML select element and HTML input element in the typing for the handle change function parameter.
Fixed it. So
Does it like? Okay.
it can be of type input element or select element. And then is that select element still going to come through with e.target.value? Would be the other question.
Let's find out.
Yep, sure does.
Hey, okay.
Yep. Okay, cool. So we got the on change. It's setting up our state. Oh, that's where that went. I wanted that that MDN page. That's okay. We can just keep it here. That's fine. Okay. So oops, I did it again. Hotkeys not doing. Git restore
Looking at
staged.
this now, it reminds me of the first time I ever opened up a TypeScript document and tried to, a project with TypeScript in React and tried to create a form, and how confusing all the, specifically around events, all the typing was. Now it's starting to look a lot more, even though it can be dense, it's starting to make more sense.
Yeah, I really like it. It definitely takes extra time. Like learning TypeScript well would be a big time saver, and it's something that need to learn more of. But it does help to just keep everything a little bit more with the rails on.
Yeah, you have that guide constantly directing you
Changed.
towards, well, hold on, let's make sure that it is
Yeah,
behaving the way you want, or that you're building it the way you want, and then once you've done that, you move to the next step. Slower at first, but I do like the way that this actually plays out.
yeah. Okay, very cool. So we have our form. It all updates on change. Each of these does this. So then the submit button. Oh, oops. This is my okay. Tiling. Uh, Air Alt Shift Q. There we go. Just trying to remember. I have the other cool thing about this tiling manager is that I can set up hotkeys to open different applications. So I can go Alt D will now just open up my browser, or
Oh, that's very nice.
Alt C will open up Chrome, or Alt Enter will just open up my terminal. So it's cool, but that's what I bumped there, and then have to figure out how to close it out. Okay, now we're back. So I've been doing some typing here for a little while. Do you want to? Because we have the submit button, and we have a handle submit here. And do you want to be the one to kind of dig into how we're gonna? Well, I guess we don't have anywhere to submit it to. Is it time for an API?
It probably is, and since we've only got about 5 minutes left, maybe what we could do is plan out what we're going to do next week, and then next week I'll start with the reins, and yeah,
Okay.
we can start building an API out.
Yeah, we can start building up the back end to accept the submit, because now that we have it, send it to the back end and then store it. And we're gonna have to figure out what we're gonna do for a database. We could jump straight into a database, or we could just use like local storage temporarily. Um,
That might be kind of nice, just to get just so that we can start um, adding to our screen and showing like, okay, we've submitted a new task type, or rather a new task. This is what it looks like, so on and so forth. Get it to persist a little bit with that local storage, because
exactly.
yeah, hooking up a database is its own
Yeah, that's going to be a whole thing on its own. And I'm
own
not.
day.
I'm looking forward to. I will stop sharing. I am looking forward to um, diving a little bit more into database stuff because I've only done a little bit and it's been a while, so I'm not an expert by any means. But that'll be another really good thing to learn.
I look forward to that too. I like databases. I like working with the data, managing it, putting it in the right places, sanitizing, and so forth. It's all
Yeah,
very gratifying work, I think.
that'll be fun. That'll be interesting, and you can definitely speak a little bit more experience to that, which will be helpful. So I can learn from you, which will be great. Okay, yeah. So next week, what do we want to set up as our to do items? We still don't have an app to keep track of our to do list, but
Yeah, I
we're
wish
getting
we
closer.
did. If only we had one of those. Yeah, so I suppose what we're really trying to do is set it up so that when you press submit, we could probably not only display the separate tasks that we have, but store them somewhere so they persist. So this might be a nice way to explore a little bit of local storage. Um, I guess conversely, maybe next week could be the database week. There's no need necessarily to cut ourselves off from that. I'm just thinking out loud here that why do more work to institute a system that ultimately we um, don't want to subscribe to? It'd be a
Yeah,
great
we'll
great
have
way
to
to.
transition out of local storage eventually, is what you're saying, right?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I was thinking like the next step after setting up local storage would be transitioning out, unless there are other steps that we need to consider first.
Oh. Yeah, because if we're sending this to the back end, then we're not going to be using local storage anyways to store
That's
anything.
right.
Because local storage is browser side, that's front end. Once we send something
Yeah,
off to the back end, it doesn't have access to local storage.
yeah. This would probably be a good next week would probably be a good chance to set up an object relation mapper for a database. We choose a database, set up.
Yeah.
I've used Prisma and a couple other ones before. We could talk about that off camera or even on. Um,
Mhm.
but setting that up and then defining models and actually trying to add things to a database and get this to persist so that from week to
Yeah.
week we have the same exact tasks,
Yeah, that'd be
and then we
really
can
cool.
actually set ourselves some tasks with our task
Yes,
app.
finally, finally. So Prisma is an interface to a database, right? You have to like
Yeah.
it just does the in between talk from your backend to the database, if I'm not mistaken. So we still have to
uh,
choose a database service, right?
it essentially allows JavaScript to communicate with our different database with different database types. So for instance, we might want to use an SQL or SQL database, or we might want to use MongoDB, just depending on which one we use. You could do it with vanilla JavaScript, and maybe that's the way we want to go. But Prisma makes it easy, especially when it comes to defining your models. If you're using an SQL database, and then because we might make changes also, and it makes migrating the database a little more controlled and simple. It has its own system for tracking changes to like the models and such. So, um, all things that we could consider, or we could try to go Wild West style and just write SQL commands, which I'm happy to do as well. That's a good skill to know.
I should learn SQL. I have not, or SQL, however you want to say it. That's been on my
I'm not sure.
that's been on my list for a
Uh,
long time, is to actually
mhm.
learn SQL.
Well, let's do that. Let's use that then. Just judging from, I mean, we don't really have a complex data type at this point, or I don't even know if we have really multiple models, but that would be a good thing to explore. Maybe we'll want to attach some different things to our tasks, like users, for instance, like whose task is this, that kind of thing.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Because eventually we want to put together an authentication system as well, so you can have users log into the to-do list, right? And if I'll have a different to-do list from you, so then you can authenticate users and then use that to attach them to their tasks in the database.
Yeah. Okay. Well, we'll leave it open, but maybe start looking at whether you would want a relational or non-relational database. Maybe we can have a conversation before we start too about what
Yeah,
those are and what that means.
have to do some research for sure.
Sure.
Okay, cool. Yeah, that sounds like a lot of fun. I'm looking forward to that. Okay, so wow, look at us. We're actually right on time for once and not going over.
The first
Um,
time.
the
We're
first
growing.
time. Okay, the hour just goes by so fast. Um, but this is cool. Great to have you back, Courtney. I'm glad you're feeling a lot better, and glad to be moving back forward on this again. I'm having a lot of fun on this project with
Me
the
too.
what we're
Good to be
doing and
back, man.
learning. So
We're
cool,
we're learning a lot from each other so far.
awesome. Well, I'm going to end the stream here. Thank you, anybody who came in to watch, and we'll be back again next week. See ya.
Bye, everybody. Happy weekend.
Cool. So then I can end the live stream on Huddle here.